Official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. Oh, well, watch it be.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to...
to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Monday, May 28th, Tuesday, May 29th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my God, live in the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here, Monday through Friday night. We store our archives on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com, website, spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great can do about it. Because, literally, the drywall has gone on the studio now. Days away from this project being completed, paint going on. And once again, I thank amazing, so thank you so much. Tonight, it's the final Monday of the month, which means it's time for Butch Witkowski's Strange Days. Butch is a longtime contributor to this show on all things paranormal. Butch's team, UFO Cop, which can be found at Investigations in Life, anything from ghosts to UFOs, aliens and abductions, missing people, werewolves, Dogman, Bigfoot, and every gnome hiding under Bazooka Joe's tree. It's all right there. Butch isn't afraid to go check it out. He wants to know what's going on. He wants the answers. Of course he does. He's a former cop. Every cop wants to get their man or their cryptid. Butch Witkowski, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Always a pleasure. You know that.
I appreciate that. I got to get used to this hollow sound right now because literally I'm staring at a big wall of drywall. And I'm not used to that. I'm not used to the sound vibrating back at me. And of course that will change over time here as we get things going. But it's almost done. I would say we're 50% done, my friend. We're 50% done on the new studio.
Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to it. You know, so once we get this done, Butch, then we...
To a new house, so I've been busy. Setting up my library, my forensic lab, and new, bigger offices, much bigger. So I've been quite busy that way. So there have been some reports, UFO reports, of course. There have been some strange happenings paranormally, and there have been some strange reports.
And we're going to get into that case in Montana. That is just absolutely strange. But do you find as people are starting to spend more time outside that this is where we're getting into peak season of what the strange and weird investigations are all about?
Well, yeah, of course, it always picks up, when the weather's nice. But you have right now. There's really a lot of black bear attacks. I mean, a lot more than has ever been recorded. And some of them were worked out okay, where the people did survive, and you don't want to become prey because you're not going to outrun a bear under any circumstances. And it just seems like all the bears that they're after the attack, of course, that they finally catch up to and put down, all are in that one category. They're older bears. They're bears that can't hunt the way they used to. So these people are targets of opportunity. The last one I read, which was about 2 days ago, where excuse me, where a lady was walking with her son and daughter on a hike, just a normal hike in the woods behind the house, and the boy saw a black bear staring at them from behind a tree. He was behind a tree, just his head sticking out, watching them. And the kid stood still, and he yelled to his mother, "A bear!" The minute she took off running, that bear was right on her. And just a month and a half ago, it was basically the same thing. A couple hikers out, and there you go. They started running. They got them both. So
you know what, though? I don't blame the bears.
What they've done all their lives.
Exactly. And in my opinion, and I was just going to say that, Butch, we are in their territory, and we are not used to it. We are not, prepared for the circumstances. How if people actually were, I think this term is tacky.
It happens in everything where people go out to investigate or research or hike. The prime case is the two guys on a bicycle just a few weeks ago. Cougar knocked one down, and the other one took off, and he chased him down, killed him. The other one survived. But it was a hungry animal. It was a kill of opportunity for him. The animal was actually standing over the dead body when the game ranger, when the rangers arrived and killed it. And again, it was an older animal. A young animal can chase down a deer. An older animal isn't going to do so well chasing down a deer. And then I was reading an article where this guy was telling people, and I just can't believe he said it, but he said, you can outrun a bear. And I thought to myself, buddy, you got more chance of seeing Jesus if you think you can outrun a bear. That ain't going to happen. People don't realize just because, they're big, they weigh a lot, and they cover a lot of territory real fast. So if you got it in your mind that you're going to take off and outrun a bear, well, it's nice knowing you.
I fully understand. Bears aren't too paranormal, though, my friend. They are not too paranormal. But this strange wolf, or whatever the hell it is, in Montana, it's like a werewolf in the face. And, when I saw this, at first I thought, oh, here we go with another one of those fake cryptid stories. And then I looked at the news outlet and realized that it was a mainstream news outlet that was covering this story. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So why don't you tell our audience about what happened in Montana?
Around a herd, and the gentleman that saw it and had a rifle and took it down. They took it to the Game Commission in Montana, and they had never seen anything like it. First of all, its size. The head was extremely large, but the body was short to tail, nose to butt. This one was in its head. The head was massive. The paws were massive. And it makes me a little strange. Thing they said was that it was definitely a hybrid wolf. And the first blood test they took was the blood test showed that it was a canine. Well, there are a lot of canines that give off blood. He's a canine. So yesterday they had, I think it was just today, they took the first DNA testing of the animal. and they won't know for a couple weeks. But they're still not claiming it's a wolf. So I guess we'll see, but it's a very large animal, and it is very strange looking. The paws are huge, and the mouth is, the length of the mouth is much longer than a wolf. Could it be a hybrid? Yeah, I guess it could be a hybrid, but at this point, even they don't know what it is. And
a hybrid with.
Well, a lot of people. What they do is you can buy a hybrid wolf, which would be a wolf and a dog. But this thing doesn't look like that. It is very funny looking, sort of, because it's so short. It doesn't have anything inconsistency with a normal wolf. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't know what it could be. It's definitely not a hybrid, because if you look at a hybrid dog-wolf or wolf-dog, they tend to have the German Shepherd look to them and the wolf look at the same time. In the ears, you'll see it in the body structure. You'll see it in the tail. It is amazing. It is not too strange to see a wolf dog. They are extremely beautiful looking. I mean, they are, and they're awesome. So it's
very curious about it as too, because I mean, reading some of the articles that I have read on this creature, I mean, one writer, I'm sure she put it in very much as a joke, but she was like, is this a werewolf? Is this one of the extinct dire wolves that used to roam around? I mean, we just don't know what this is. I mean, it is. I mean, it's obvious it was hunting this rancher's livestock. Why wouldn't it? That's part of its nature.
Right.
But I mean, the look on it, it does not look like your regular predatory wolf.
Yeah, it's not your normal run-of-the-mill wolf, and it could be a hybrid. It could be a hybrid with any number of canines, but it's just very strange, very strange. And they have kind of a wolf, with the exception of the mouth, which is really long. I mean, it's wide and large of a guy. He has a large hand. He's got it up against the paw. And it is amazing. It is amazing. I just don't know what it is.
His teeth look larger as well, especially in the canines.
Oh yeah, absolutely, much bigger than a wolf. The guys, when the Game Commission got it, I mean, their very first thought was that it was maybe a how would I say it? It was probably maybe a birth defect, being that it was so short at one end and large at the other. But it didn't, crooked limbs or out-of-place ribs or spine deformities. So they got their hands full. It's a strange animal for sure, and it could be some kind of crossbreed. But at this point, they really don't know. They haven't got a clue.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. What it absolutely is. So when it comes down to this, I mean, if there's one, I guess there would have to be others, or do you think that this is just one out of maybe like we see albino animals? Mm-hmm. Like, could it just be a rarity? Could it be lack of a better term, some sort of, wolf with a disease, much like we see humans with different diseases or different syndromes or chromosomes? Like, I don't want to use any terms that are going to upset people, but we see a lot of different things happening with people.
Well, it could be a freak of nature. It could be something in the genetic line. But at this point, they really don't know, Dave. They haven't got a clue. There was a radio spot on today on national radio where they said, at this point, they're treating it just like an oddball canine. That's it. And, until they get DNA testing, they really don't know what they have. But it is, it's just a weird looking, if it is a wolf or a wolf hybrid, it's really weird because if you notice in the picture too, it's got a high hump behind the head, which would be indicative to a hyena, but hey, it is what it is, and we'll see. I mean, I'm sure people would really want to know about that.
Well, I hope there isn't another one of these creatures because, I mean, if this is some sort of recluse animal or maybe a species, the way that it seemed to show aggression on this rancher's farm, we could be dealing with something that is all new to us and maybe a new aggressive. I mean, wolves are aggressive as they are. They're pack animals. They're pack hunters and pack killers.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it would be interesting to see if we actually have a new breed.
Well, what I think, look, you have, the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine, which really went extinct in 1986. And the last sighting and the last video taken, and I just looked at it today, was on January 9th of this month of 2018. And it is what it looks like. It has the tail structure, which is very dominant with that species, where it sticks out straight. It doesn't hang down. It doesn't curl up. And it also has the stripes. So has down there in the Queensland, has this animal actually survived. The last one, I believe, died in captivity in 1936, and then they were officially listed as extinct in 86. But is it possible that there were some pups out there who did survive? Yeah, sure it's possible. Everything's possible. I mean, there are so many extinct animals that are still being tracked. I mean, lake monsters, I think there's 24 of those. So you have people are saying that they think the megalodon is still around. Now, I don't know about that one because the megalodon was oh God, that was back when they lived something like 400,000 years ago, or
a couple million, 2 to 3 million years ago is when they died out. Allegedly,
I think 2.3 million was the when they were supposed to live. But and they did exist. I mean, it was an animal. It was an absolute animal. I mean, they have the teeth. There have been many carcasses found. They know the size. I mean, these things were like 59 to 65 feet long. And the bite, what the heck was the bite? I saw it somewhere where the bite tonnage, the bite force was something like 108,000 tons.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I mean, you're not talking about getting a bigger boat. You're just out there that are still being searched for. Now, your Bigfoot, Chupacabra, are they real? Well, we don't know yet. Could they be? Sure. Anything's possible. I mean, that's how discoveries are made. But, folks have to realize, too, that, it's a pseudoscience. It aims to prove an existence of creatures like Bigfoot, Chupacabras, and pseudoscience, it's got that name on it because it doesn't follow a scientific method, and it's not recognized by academia at all, anywhere in the world. So when somebody comes up with something, let's say somebody finds, well, that's made up from pirate stories. No, the Kraken did exist. It was a very large animal in the sea and could do a lot of damage because of its size. Well, they said never existed, never existed, never existed. So what do they find off the shore of Japan? They find a creature, almost perfect description of the Kraken, cryptozoology books and stuff like that. Cryptozoology to me is fascinating because I have so little information. It is you can't go around calling everybody that gives you a report on a strange creature, that they're lying. I mean, people are seeing something out there. I mean, there's just too many reports. I mean, if you were talking about there were 3 reports on doubtful, you're probably misinterpreting or misidentifying something. But there are too many, way too many reports to chalk off as misidentification. What the skeptics say. I mean, Virginia, they're all over the West. Texas, Arizona, Montana, Colorado, they're everywhere. Canada, you have bears that shouldn't be as big as they are, and they're huge. They're like on their hind legs, and they're 17 foot tall. Now, he's stuffed, but still, the size is there. People have to put a little more faith in the groups that are out there looking. I mean, they're trying to find, where somebody said that, I think it might have been the Smithsonian, that they have, well, show them. Let's see them. Then you got the other groups that say, or you got another bunch of people that are saying, well, they're owned and run by the government. The government takes care of them. Okay, why? People have had encounters. That's a fact. What they describe is not a great ape. It's not a guy in a suit. It is something way out of pedal canine sighting or a dogman sighting, and they're standing there shaking in their boots while they're talking to you, or they're tearing up in their eyes. You know they're not lying. They're telling you the truth. Tim Claremont just said it right off my tongue here. PA and Ohio border and central PA for dogman reports and bipedal reports. You have a number of reports coming out now in northern New York. We have, I just got a report, and I really didn't act on it yet because, like I said, I'm in the process of moving in the next 2 days, so I will get to it. But there is a report now out of Northern Virginia. So, and these descriptions are pretty much what everybody's describing as a Bigfoot. I mean, the size, the shape, the fur color, the eyes, the mannerisms, the walk, the length of the arms. It's just amazing. And, if you start doubting, if you would doubt everybody that gave you a report, then you shouldn't be doing this. You should just get out of it, take up checkers or building model cars or something.
Oh, absolutely, Butch. And, there are so many creatures out there that we really don't know. And when you look at the fact that so much of our areas, haven't even been looked into yet. Pretty much all of Alaska still hasn't been fully investigated. Same as northern Canada.
Look at the oceans. We've done what?
Oceans as well.
2%?
5 to 10 is what I heard.
Yeah, somebody told me 2%, but I'm sure it's probably more than that. But look, you've got animals now that have been seen, spotted, photographed, cataloged, and you have the Adjuli in western Sahara Desert, which is a unrecognizable wolf canine breed that hunts in packs and is a killer. New York, Alabama, Ohio, North Carolina, New Jersey, Tennessee, very similar creature to Nessie. You have the problem with that is the only reason they're saying that is because if you start putting out, cougar warnings in the state parks, well, nobody's going to go to the state parks. So they lose money. But there are so many really good pictures or track that it's crazy. And, it kind of burns me when people say, they don't know what they're talking about, or what's the guy supposed to come back with, his arm ripped off or something like that to prove it? We know they're out there. The thing is to catch them in their own habitat, which is kind of tough, and get them on film, get them on FLIR device, multi-witness, a testimony, whatever. But they're out there. There are a lot of strange creatures out there. They just found, in all these years, that people have been studying bats, and there are people that actually study bats, big time. And a new bat species was just found in, I believe it was Venezuela. No, Nicaragua. This bat has a wingspan of almost 6 feet. A bat.
It's a big bat.
And it's definitely, you're looking at a wolf. I mean, you're looking at a wolf. It looks just like a wolf. Ears, snout, eyes, the way the jaw's set. And it is an amazing discovery. Nobody even knew it existed. It was actually injured. What the guy thought was that it hit a branch while it was flying and got knocked down and knocked out and had a broken wing. And the people that found it picked it up and took it to a vet, and they started working on it. And, a matter of fact, I believe the end of this month or the beginning of next month, they're going to turn him loose. Things are found every day. And when you have the skeptics say that that's nonsense, it doesn't exist, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, and then you have the academia saying, well, we don't recognize any of. What do they mean by a scientific method? So some guy looking for Bigfoot or a cougar now has to, load up with a lab and go out checking to see what kind of berries are out there to eat, or there are orchards close by, or plentifully. And that's, to me, that's not scientific. That's just a good investigator. And there's just so many things with cryptozoology that are good, and there are so many that was not so good.
Or having reports, but there are some that we know are allegedly extinct. I'm thinking mammoth in very remote parts of Russia still coming out. Even though the couple of grainy videos that I saw looked very, very fake and maybe a little bit of CGI, but there's still people seeing woolly mammoths in Russia. That would be their. Or do you think that maybe their numbers are so low that they are just easier to hide?
Well, I agree with that. One of the things with the woolly mammoth, though, is if you remember the steppe mammoth that was the baby steppe mammoth that was found in the permafrost, there was a larger mammoth near that baby, and I believe they call her Lubia, the baby. And what they did was the larger one was not so much intact. The baby was really intact. I mean, still had fur, had food in its stomach, had scat in its intestines. They knew what it ate, when it ate. But the neat part about it is with the larger mammoth, they took a bone and they cut the bone to get the marrow. And they wanted to do DNA testing on the marrow. So they tried that, but they only got damaging the baby, Lubia. They extracted DNA. They got some from a leg. They got some internally. They didn't butcher it or anything like that. They extracted DNA. 4 days ago, the scientific community, which is doing the testing, retrieved 100% DNA from that little woolly mammoth. And now they want to do some further testing to make sure that the strands of the DNA are totally bring back the woolly mammoth to the steppes. That's amazing.
Should we be playing God like that, though?
Well, look at it this way. We put them extinct. Not us personally, but I mean our forefathers, just like the Tasmanian tiger. I mean, they flourished. But when the sheep herders started moving into the Queensland and Australia, the end of it, they seen them, they shot them. So why not give them another chance?
Mutated hybrid that is full of disease, is the species. The environment around it always finds a way to survive. It's not like putting wolves back in Yellowstone and seeing, the river change. But we have, when we start playing God, we don't.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is they have found many mammoths. I think in 1 year they had 36 they found. But they never got 1.1%, which was nothing. And they had some that were 5 and 8%. They had one that was as high as 20%, but it's not 100% strand. 100% strand means that it would be exactly like, I mean, if the DNA strands were 100% perfect, then you would be creating the exact same animal that you got those strands from to begin with. And I think, in my mind, it's exciting. I mean, they have even designated, I can't remember what part of Russia it is. It's way up north. But they have designated something like 3,000 or 5,000 square miles that this would be a park for the mammoth. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm more leaning toward that'd be cool. That'd be really
there's still a lot of people, I guess what I'm trying to say, in today's day and age, cutting off shark fins is not good, and killing 100 million sharks a year is not good for the environment. No. Yet shark fin soup continues to be a delicacy, especially in there are heavy Chinese populations where shark fin soup is still considered a major delicacy to those of a more affluential status in society.
Yeah, and well, you also have rhinoceros, which that's medicinal purposes, and now that guy that just developed that dye, it seems to be working very well. They paint the horn of the rhinoceros with this. It looks like pink paint. But what it does do is it soaks in all the way through, so the ivory has this pink tint throughout the whole thing. And the ones that they've gotten done with pink tint have not been butchered. They've not been killed. The ones that were in the same group that had not, kind of escaped getting that paint job have been shot, and the horns have been taken. Humans sometimes are goofy.
Oh, true enough. True enough. And we're a dumb species when it comes to respecting the wildlife out there.
Yeah. It pains me sometimes when I read some of these stories about what happens to some of these animals. But, survival of the fittest, I guess, is one thing that gets brought up a lot. And if they can do this mammoth thing perfect, that little mammoth now becomes a real mammoth, just the way it was when it was back in those days, I find that exciting. But I feel the same way in some respects that, is somebody going to play around, make it a little bigger, make it a little longer, make it a little more aggressive, by messing with the DNA? I don't know. I mean, human nature is weird, but I don't think they would do that. They've gone to so much trouble. I mean, this group that's doing this mammoth study, I mean, some of these guys, their grandfathers were doing this study, and now they're the grandsons, doing this study and continuing on, and their families are continuing on. So hopefully, maybe we'll get a woolly mammoth someday. Hope I'm around to see it. I'd really like to see one. Not in person, but I'd really like to see them walking around.
I don't know. I don't, as much as I would love to see them, I don't like this playing with God stuff.
Yeah, well,
I think it's a little too dangerous, and our science is still a little bit too in an infant stage to be playing this. I realize they have to learn and they have to test it somewhere, Butch, but I just, and I might be in the minority here, I just do not believe that it is very good for the earth and mankind and even animal kind. I really don't. Really don't. Let me ask you this, though, Butch. Which species that people claim to have seen after it's been said to be extinct, which species do you believe is still around?
Well, I would probably say ocean creatures, because we know so little about the ocean. We know so little about the creatures in the ocean. It's a big, it's a big pond. And, I mean, they find something new every day. There was just, I remember when I was much younger when they found the lanternfish, and I was all excited about that. I'm going like, wow, that's pretty cool. And now they found something similar to that, but the whole body lights up. Now, we're talking about going down, like the Marianas Trench. And fishermen are pulling stuff in that fish that have never been seen. Some are predators and some aren't. But it is amazing that they have the kind of luck they have when they're out there in the ocean and they find these creatures that people said, they've been extinct or we never even knew about this. That's the one that's really anything of this ever being found. And that's kind of cool and exciting. But I think the oceans is where they're going to find different species or species that are much bigger than they should be. Giant anacondas in the Amazon, their average length matches almost Titanoboa, which was pre-Pleistocene age, I believe, that was over 65 feet. Now they found one that's 40 feet. So could there be a bigger one out there that would match Titanoboa? Sure. But, this was one animal that was actually found during an excavation and they found this thing. Actually, it was hit by a tractor. And, you look at a rattler or, an eastern rattler here or a copperhead, you're looking at a couple feet, sometimes 45 feet long. The girth of this thing was like 1.5 feet. Well, that was a big snake. And if it changes, you're going to see a lot more species being found. Not only like the bat, but, fish or predators of any type. Right now, I can't remember who's doing the investigation, but they are chasing I'm going to say it looks like a cougar, okay, but much larger. It is, and I don't know the exact length and stuff, but one of the things in the article said if you have a cougar, an eastern cougar that weighs somewhere around that 90-pound range, this one's looking to be in that 160-pound range. That's a big cat.
Babies, my friend.
Oh, my God.
We had one guy, we have a local junior hockey team here in town, and one of the kids who played for the junior hockey team, he's an avid hunter. And he went and got one about 2 years ago that was around 200 kilograms.
Yow.
20 pounds. Cougar. That's a big cat, man. Big cat for our area.
Yeah. And and one of the things I guess they're really looking at with this animal is that it's not a lone hunter. It is it seeks out a prey, but it doesn't attack until its buddies show up. And what it does, I understand that the History Channel is going to have a 1-hour show on this guy sometime in September. I'll keep track of him and stuff like that. But what it does is, like, say it's tracking a water buffalo. Now, water buffalo is a pretty nasty creature. But it will wait until the other purpose. Like the leader may go for the hind end, and when the animal... And they don't have a name for it yet. I think they gave it some stupid name like Larry or something like that. But it's the groups run in packs of 10, and the leader is always out by himself. It's almost like a coordinated attack, which they never see. Like if a lion brings down a gazelle or something like that, well, the lion charges in. Well, once he gets it down, then everybody comes in for the lunch. But this thing is crafty. It will track, and it will... just like a planned attack. And they've watched 4 attacks now. They filmed 4 attacks. And every attack was exactly the same way. The leader goes in, attacks from the rear, and when the animal turns around to fight the leader, the rest of them move in from the side. So I don't know what they're dealing with there, but they've been watching it now for, I think the man said 2 years and 3 months. they've been documenting these cats. And he said it's not that they're any weirder looking than any other cat. He said they're just bigger. And they, all the time, they never attack alone. Like you might get a lone lion out there or a panther or something like that. They'll attack on their own. This will not do that. They've not seen anything where an attack is made solely by one animal. It's a coordinated attack, and it's from all sides, front, back, rear, sides. They just unbelievable.
Well, my friend, I'm going to hit you up hard here because you still think is still in existence.
Well, I'm going to forget about lake monsters for a moment because most lakes are landlocked. So how did it get there to begin with? I'm going to say megalodon. I think there could be a giant shark down there. I mean, look at a basking shark. They're huge. And a megalodon's bigger than that. And megalodons were deep water. They were not like a great white. They didn't hunt on top of the water. They hunted deep water. And I think, you've gotten that huge shark that he just had all over the news. I mean, that sucker was 35 foot long, that female. And that was a female. So if there could be bigger white sharks, I'm sure megalodon may be around somewhere in deep water. And
Son would absolutely love you for that because he is so shark crazy right now. And megalodon is his absolute favorite. His absolute favorite. And I don't know if that one is still around. It would have to be hiding pretty deep in the Atlantic somewhere. However, what does make me wonder, and I'm not saying it's megalodon, but a number of years ago, I remember watching the news, or maybe it was Shark Week, one of the two, where a 15 or 16 foot great white shark had got caught up in one of the beach nets that they have out there to try and keep the sharks away from people. Long story short, this shark had a bite out of it, spine to spine. And they figured that it was a 35 to 40 foot shark that would have had to taken that one bite out. It's absolutely phenomenal how that works. I think I'm sticking with in Australia and that area and that continent, and I think the thylacine is still around.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I think is still around out of all of them, or the black panther here in North America to be closer to home.
Well, yeah, either one of those. But as far as they've been seen. Although the megalodon's teeth and bodies have popped up, carcasses, and their skeletons and fossils of the megalodon. I just think that when deep water trawlers are going out for fish, that the deep water they're down there, and they're the ones that are picking up these jaw bones and shark teeth and all that stuff. Now, another thing was they've been found in all the oceans. They've been found in thought that the northern Atlantic would be where they found the most of those fossils, but actually more fossils have been found in the southern Pacific than they have in the northern Atlantic. So you're talking about a shark which can survive in a thing that's on the internet, and it shows you where the sharks are right now in real time. They're hooked to satellites. They've been captured and pinned, and it's amazing. I mean, when you go from Maine all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, and that whole area is just covered with sharks, and they know who they are. They have names for them, and the other thing that's kind of fascinating is how far they will travel. The one was, I think they started tracking it up around New England State.
Wow. That's
a long way to go.
I got to show my son that website. He will go absolutely crazy. Butch, I'm going to get you to hold on. We're going to step out for our first break of the night. Butch Witkowski's Strange Days happen the final Monday of every month. His website, uf4cop.com. uf4cop.com is the website, and Butch will be back with more paranormal, ghost, stories.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cheering past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around. Enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. Your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at SpacedOutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of, or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter at SpacedOutRadio.Strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or...
To your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. east of Eric Cooper for Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at SpacedOutRadio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at SpacedOutRadio.com and click on our Advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can have a product you like our hosts to endorse. We can do that too. Visit SpacedOutRadio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at SpacedOutRadio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News. Tune in to Rebel Planet on SpacedOutRadio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit PurplePlates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at PurplePlates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Leela Hutchison is going to join us. We are going to be talking about crystals, gems, the power of healing. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network, including the Fringe.fm. And if you want to follow us on Periscope.tv, you can watch us live every Monday through Friday night. Just go to periscope.tv/Spaced Out Radio. Our archives are stored at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. You can listen to them for free. The only thing we ask for in return is a follow. Subscribe to us. We appreciate that. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oh, I don't even know what this is. Utsieri? Utsieri? Is that it? I have no idea. UHTCEARE. Utsieri? I don't know. Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, we got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to some Bubblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read The Encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. So, Butch, I go outside. Butch Wachowski is our guest. I should introduce Butch. Butch comes in the final Monday of every month to talk about everything cryptid and weird. We call it Strange Days around here. His website, uforcop.com. Butch, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
I go outside, my friend. It's 10 o'clock, and if you go to Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio, I posted a picture. Oh, I know. Well, I mean, you're 3 hours different. It's 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
By the time we get to the solstice, it'll probably be like this for another hour.
Wow. That's wild.
It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for the solstice because I think it's really cool seeing like daylight at like 11 o'clock at night. I don't know why.
What are your temperatures up there right now?
Right now, we're if I convert them to Fahrenheit, we're high 70s, low 80s.
Okay.
Right now?
Yeah, we're mid
right now, but we don't have the Pennsylvania humidity here.
No, I'm sure.
it's very nice. Very, very nice. I want to kick off hour number 2 with some questions. You investigated at all about that weird creature that washed up on the shores of the Philippines recently.
Yeah, we looked at that. But there was a couple explanations. I think the very first explanation was that it was a killer whale, but it was too small. And then it went to a long, long time in the water. So, with predators munching on it, give it that shredded look. But they have had, in Tahiti, they had one wash up on shore last summer. And till this day, they have no idea what it is. They haven't got a clue. It was had a very long neck, very long tail. It had 4 flippers, so what is that telling you? So, of course, everybody went wild with that and said, hey, Nessie's over in Tahiti. But actually, it turned out to be I can't remember the name of the fish, but it's kind of like an ocean-going sturgeon. It's very large, The one in the Philippines, or the couple they had in the Philippines, they still haven't gotten an answer on that. I mean, they've tried everything with it. I mean, they went from whale to killer whale to dolphin to, they just keep popping something up, hoping it sticks, and it's not sticking.
Oh, these strange creatures that keep washing up, man. These strange creatures that keep washing up. I remember when I was a kid, I was down in Birch Bay, Washington. We used to go down there for weekends, and there was this big thing that washed up on shore, and I was like 8, 9 years old at that time. You cannot do that whatsoever. Stay away. To this day, I still recall what that thing looked like. Now, I mean, it could have been a boat on its side. It could have been absolutely anything. Either way, it was a little freaky. A little freaky.
Freaky's good.
Yeah, but, you want to have some kind of answer to what it is.
Yeah.
You totally want to have an answer to what it is. Let's go to John's question on Twitter. #SpacedOutRadio. John is asking, Butch, do you have any updates on the Chicago Mothman sightings?
They are continuing. They are now in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has posted, I believe, 3 reports. I'm on that research team, but I only do background research for them. I'm not involved in the actual reports. The sightings in the Chicago area are still ongoing, and now they've gotten some reports out of Milwaukee and Wisconsin area. The couple pictures that were taken, I mean, some of them don't really catch my eye as being something strange, but there were a couple that do, where he's high in the sky. I don't know what things are coming in through a portal. I don't know where that goes. But I believe that the most recent report was from a gentleman that saw something back in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, that he described with pretty much a pterodactyl. So I don't know what they are. I have no idea. And I know there's a whole group of researchers and investing, and that's pretty neat that, you can have that many people that live in that particular area that are researchers and investigators, whether they be, guys that do Bigfoot or paranormal or whatever. I mean, they're out there looking. They're trying to find out what's going on. But they continue as we speak.
Do you think the sightings, now that they're starting to happen in Milwaukee, are starting to spread through that central area, maybe because feeding the lights of the major cities? I'm grasping at straws here, Butch, trying to find out why the sightings have moved into the Wisconsin area now.
All the sightings, with the exception of a very few, large lakes, specifically large lakes, and I read one article somebody wrote, they're not even on the investigation team, but they wrote that they thought it may be a waterborne creature that stays close to home, but nobody has seen it, with the exception of I think the first two there were 2 where it was seen on the ground. One by a lady walking her dog, one walking her dog, and she saw one in a park. And then the second one where there was a sighting was multi-witness, and 2 police officers who arrived at the scene actually saw 2 of them that were perched up on a ledge. So I don't know what they are. I really don't. People talking about portals and things from the past and prehistoric, and I don't even know where to go with it. It really came out of nowhere. I don't know how many cases they got now. I know there's a slew of them. They got a lot. It is amazing.
Do you feel that this creature being centered, do you think it's feeding off of fish or migratory birds in that area? What do you think it's feeding off of?
Well, that came up early on in the investigation, but nobody ever saw them in that area. Pretty much they've always been seen, like I said, with the exception of just a handful, they've always been seen out over water. And so it's very possible that, they could be feeding on fish or other wildlife that would be around the water. I don't know. It's when you think about, could a pterodactyl or that type of flying creature still exist today? I don't know. I just don't know. They always landed high on a mountaintop or, atop a tree because they had to drop and to pick up just because of their weight, they couldn't do it. But there was one, I can't think of the name of it, but there was one bird like that did walk on the ground, and it did hunt on the ground, but it had such a strong back end, such strong legs, that it could actually shoot itself up. It could just push itself up into the air and catch the wind, where most of them were not that way. They had to have a high spot to, they'd get up on a mountain, and then they'd look for prey, and then they'd swoop down on them, and they'd go right back up to their lair. But what these things are and where they came from, I haven't got a clue. I mean, this one is one of those where you're just going to have to keep a real open mind to see what's going on, because it has been going on for a long time now, and now they're up in the Milwaukee area. So, are they going to kind of stay in that central part of the United States, or are they going to head north to cooler weather, or are they going to head south to warmer weather? Nobody knows. The first couple sightings were individuals, but they've had doctors report it, they've had lawyers report it, police officers report it, people on the street, cab drivers, and whatever's flying up there is flying. And birds have been ruled out because the wing structure is different. The height at what it's flying is way too high. Now, a thermal, he could wind up in New York City, and that's happened many times. But these are way bigger than condors, and they don't look anything like a condor. The wing structure is different. The tail, I think pretty much all the tails have been described as long, and coming to a point. Birds don't have that type of tail. Although some cranes, when they put their legs back in flight, do resemble that tail. But I tell you, to be honest, nobody knows. Nobody really has a clue. I know Mothman has been brought up hundreds of times, that he's back, but again, the description is totally different. I mean, it's amazing. It's just amazing.
We've got another question here from our audience, and this one comes from Joseph, who is asking, has there been any recent Thunderbird sightings?
I think, if I remember right, and like I said, I've been moving the house, so I'm not catching up on every one of them, but over a park area, if I remember the report properly. But it is that area, western and southwestern Pennsylvania and eastern West Virginia. They've had quite a number over the years of Thunderbird sightings.
I mean, I think it could be a condor or something along those lines, a condor flying very low and somebody just, gets the altitude wrong of the bird. I mean, if you have a 40-foot or even a 20-foot bird flying in the sky, someone's going to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things I think with those sightings they're so fleeting, like somebody catches it out of the corner of their eye. Well, you look at a full-size crane, and you get a crane up in the air, and that's a big bird. An eagle's a big bird. A condor's a huge bird. A turkey vulture's a big bird. So, just catching a glimpse of something, it's just like, something, a helicopter or whatever. It's just, I'm not sold on the Thunderbird sightings either. Things out in Chicago area, there are pictures. And, I mean, the wings, you can see, like it's different. I mean, you know, people don't realize how big a condor is, but if you go on the internet and just Google a condor, and they'll give you the specifics on its size, you'll just sit there and go like, wow, that's huge. So something flying low, like that size of a bird or a turkey vulture or an eagle, low over your head, I can imagine if you just caught a quick glimpse of it, the thing would look as, there's very little information. The information on thunderbirds is very sparse. I just think, I mean, look, the indigenous, and then when you went into Canada, it was a different bird. And you went southwestern United States, it was another different bird. They were big birds, but they all weren't condors. Some were eagles. Some were falcons. So I don't know. I really need to know a lot more about the thunderbirds than what's out there now, which is pretty much not a whole lot.
Adam, or around these parts, Adnome, and I say this with a sigh, he wants to know if you have been tracking any gnome reports recently. Damn it, Adnome, I don't know why you suck me into asking these damn questions all the time, but I do.
No, I have not. I've not received any, and I have not investigated any.
Perfect. We can drop it right there when it comes to that. We can just drop it right there.
But
I know somewhere in the Witkowski household there is a shotgun that you could use, you know, that gnome for target practice. Sure. Hey, Everett was asking me earlier before the show. He was asking Butch if you had any updates whatsoever on that paranormal event that you were covering around the barn with those creatures that kind of look like aliens.
Yes, they're still there. They've moved. I'll give you an update on it. I was down a couple weeks ago. They were both on the barn. 3 or 4 times I was there. Different positions, but still there. And then maybe 4 weeks ago, right before I got a little sick, I was down, and the one was off the barn, laid the foundation and stuff. One was actually at the far end of that dirt pile, and you can see where they've been moving the dirt pile and putting it out in the field and filling in low spots with the dirt. And the other one is now out in the field. He's closer to a small tree line, but still visible on floor, both of them. And 25 degrees. Now, those times I was out there, we were in the 50s and 60s and low 70s. So I don't know. And the blue light that was across the fields, which we could never find. I mean, there is nothing across those fields. We've been there. I drove there. I walked there. I've walked up that hill. I was down. The last time I saw the light was two weeks ago. I drove by and I stopped and pulled over on the other road, which is opposite that light, and got binoculars out, and the light's still there. Now, I can get in the blue light flashing, but it's there. And what it is, I have no idea. It's just there. And it's it's a brilliant blue light. It's not like dark blue or turquoise or anything like that. It's a brilliant blue.
And here's coincidence. The UFO landing that I saw, that was the exact same color of the cylinder that was at the center of these lights. And that cylinder was about, I'm going to say 20 feet high.
Jeez.
So that's kind of, giving me the heebie-jeebies that you're seeing the same color blue, but in an orb that I saw in the cylinder car. Mm-hmm. But it's just like a tad darker. Just not much. Just a couple of strands of blue darker.
Well, I had 2 other investigators with me, Lon Strickler and his son Matt, and when Lon was walking up toward the barn, toward the door where I saw one very visible. Matt saw it too. He heard what he thought was chanting. Okay. Now, or somebody singing really weird, not understood language in his mind anyway, around the pond. So now they're in planting season right now, so that pond is really in the middle of a lot of corn. But that feed corn will be coming down soon. And what we want to do is get a camera in the water and see. He doesn't really know how deep that pond is. It's fed by underground, so it could be very deep or could not be very deep, don't know. But that's our next venture, to check that pond out and keep an eye on what's going on at the barn and in the field.
Do you think that these creatures or these ghosts, entities, I guess that's probably the correct, are meaning the farmer or the farm any harm? Has the farmer tried to make peace at all with them?
No, because, and I mentioned this on the show, terrible. And that farm sits between a bunch of houses on one side, across the road, a bunch of houses, and behind them is a tree farm, and a side of it is a residence, and across the road are a couple very large farms, cattle farms. Now, the windstorm came through. I got all the pictures of the damage. The homes on the right hand, looking at the tree farm behind, had 50 old growth trees torn out of the ground. The home aside of him on the left was pretty extensively damaged. When I say that, I mean like gutters and siding and downspouts and all that stuff was ripped off. Across the road at those farms, tractor trailers loaded with feed were turned upside down. Cement silos were knocked over. Aluminum silos were knocked over. Barn in 1968 suffered no damage whatsoever. None. Not a roof tile. There was a pile of leaves when I come out of the house, the side entrance to the house, and I walked beyond where his truck is parked, and I have to walk between a barn and the truck to get to the back to the barn, to the new barn. There's a pile of leaves there. I walked through that pile of leaves back in December. That pile of leaves is still there. It's never moved. And I thought, after the windstorm, that'd be long gone. Nothing. His trash can lids never left. Nothing. There was no damage to that farm whatsoever. So whatever these things are, and I kind of lean toward indigenous watchers, protectors of that land, because that was all indigenous down through there. That was the largest Susquehannock tribe in all the way down through there. And it was no damage at all. They have not left the property. They're still there. He's never been bothered by them. He didn't even know they existed till we saw him. And it's just recently that he's been hearing this chanting out by the pond. But I don't think they're there to harm him. I think they're there to protect something. Now, Susquehannock buried their dead, cremated them and buried them. And some tribes just pretty much left them out to lay wherever they fell. But so maybe that property or a part of that property was at one time an indigenous burial ground or a battlefield, because the Susquehannock were very warlike and they were very large Indians. They weren't small. And they put it down there and they'll be gone. I don't know.
So you believe then that it is some sort of indigenous spirits that are lying around. Have you spiritual First Nations people to try and ask them to leave?
There were some people there, yes. There was also a remote viewing done on the property. And they pretty much came up with the same thing, that it was definitely indigenous. And I don't know a whole lot about remote viewing other than what I've been shown how it works. But everything that they said at this, and they were describing where the house sat, where the pond was. The tribe was here before the white man ever stepped foot in the state of Pennsylvania. So did something happen there? Was it a battleground? Is it a burial site? We don't know. But just, and as the barn was getting completed, they moved to a dirt pile, which that dirt pile was actually underneath the barn and was taken away to use for the foundation setting. And then some of that one of the entities is out there with that dirt. So is there something that they dug up in that barn when they were doing the digging, and now it's on that dirt pile, and now it's being spread out? So is the other one, if they move more dirt, is the other one going to move? That will pretty much tell me that they're guarding spear in my hand, and I walked up to the barn. When I walked toward the dirt pile, the closer I got to the dirt pile, the more active the EMF detector became. And so there's something there. So there's some kind of connection between the ground. I just don't know. Now, the pond is another thing. The guys at Channing, I mean, we never told him that. And then when he told me that, I just kind of rolled my eyes and I'm like, wow. So as soon as we can get to the pond, where we can get around the pond, all the way around it, and get a camera in the water and do some testing, and then we'll see. We'll see what it is.
People are having a good laugh watching me on Periscope right now because I've just got my hat trick of mosquito kills. Very happy about this. Very happy. I mean, what was God thinking when he created the mosquito? Let's be honest here.
Same thing he was thinking about when he created a wasp. A wasp is just an a-hole with wings.
Exactly. These bloody mosquitoes are good for nothing. Good for nothing. Sure, it feeds the bats and the starlings and all that, so I guess it's good for that. But son of a gun, man.
Well, I did learn. I did learn something, and I got it off the internet, and it just cracked me up. I had to try it. The wood boring bees, the ones that drill a little hole in every piece of wood they can get their hands on. So I was out on the patio of the new house, and I just happened to see some sawdust laying on the ground, and I saw the burrow hole. And a couple nights later, I was on the internet looking up, how do you get rid of these bees? What do? Plug the hole or what? And the guy said, you can plug the hole with air or what? They'll find another way to come out. So the guy says, get a brown paper bag, okay? Crumple it up like it looks like a wasp nest, which is very easy to do. Just shape it like a wasp nest and hang it, in that area. Now, I've been watching it now for a week and a half since I hung that thing. I have not seen one of those bees burrow into anything. I've seen them fly by, and they just keep right on going because those wasps are their deadly enemy. And I've not had any bore holes in anything in that on that patio. And I'm just thinking, like, a paper bag. Why didn't I think of that? Could have made $1 million with that one.
I watched my little dog get stung twice by wasps going up my patio stairs, and I'm like, what the Sam hell? So I've got this step when you go onto my grass. It almost looks like a pallet, but it isn't. I lift up this pallet to see, and I've got this slow pitch softball size wasp nest there. So I'm like, okay, we're going to have to deal with this, because I like to have fun with them, right? So I bring out the hose. Wasps don't like hoses. They don't like, especially when you put it on full-on jet. They don't like that. They don't like that. And the water is pumping so hard, you usually win. You know what I'm saying? You usually win. And that makes me happy. That's the way I take care of the wasps around here. It's good. Yeah. It's good. But we got the jumbo honey and bumblebees. That are about an inch and a half long. They're just fantastic. I don't mind them. I like them. They're pretty cool.
Craig just said on the chat room, he said it perfectly, wasps are a-holes. Yeah, that's with right. Wings.
Exactly.
I mean, they're just crazy. But when the guy said, put a bag up there, I put a bag up there, and I haven't seen any of those other bees at all. No kind of bees. And it's just an empty bag that just crumpled up in the shape of a. It has to be brown paper bag because it has to look like mud. But so even the other bees know that they're buttholes.
Well, up here it gets so dry. Actually, last year we had almost an entire swarm of honeybees during the forest fire season. We had an entire swarm of honeybees. They couldn't find water, and they were literally packed all around our hummingbird feeders. So we actually had to make a pool on a flat plate with rocks in it in order to allow the honeybees to get a drink of water. So that was kind of cool. You know, I'd never really seen that. I never thought about that before because I like the bees. I do. I really like the bees. The bees are good. You know, and they make some good honey. They really do. But I try and take care of the bees around here. I always got water going for them somewhere. So that way they can at least, you know, continue to do what they need to do. Because we kind of need them. The wasps, they're just jerks. They're like cats. They're like cats with wings. Just jerks. You know.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Hey, I got a question for you, and this is a question I've never asked you, and I don't know why. You're in the middle of Amish country around Pennsylvania there. Have you ever had any cases, paranormal or otherwise, with Amish people?
Yes. But they border on, and it's totally illegal in this state. They call it powwowing. And what I know about powwowing, I could probably fit on, 2 legal-sized pieces of paper. But powwowing was a religious sect of the Amish that, and Mennonite also. They cast spells. They could make people sick. They could cure people. If you bought a farm between 2 Amishmen that practiced powwowing, all kind of weird stuff would happen, like your equipment would break down or your cattle would die. You'd have a barn fire of unknown origin, just all kinds of stupid and weird stuff. And actually, in the state of Pennsylvania, they passed a law that powwowing is illegal to be practiced. It's basically it's kind of like a witchcraft, but it stays within that sect. And just a lot of stuff like they could raise the dead, they could poison a crop, they could just stand at the edge of your property and stare at you and you'd become violently ill. There were so many stories. Now, how many of those are true? I have no idea. But I know that there were so many complaints over the years that it's actually a law here that you cannot practice it. Is it still being practiced? Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about that. But it stays within the community itself, which is the old Amish community mostly, and the old Mennonite communities, not the newer sects. But it is just, and there's books. I mean, there are Amishmen and Mennonites who practice it or are no longer in the religious aspect of it, have published books on it, and the books are out there. I mean, you can get them on Amazon. Just put in Amish powwow, and it'll tell you what they did, how they do it, what they think, and it's a very close-knit community, the powwow groups. Somebody said one time that there were maybe 30 or 40 groups in Lancaster County. I don't think that's correct. I think there's less than that. I think they'd be more closed than to have that many groups. But it's the old Amish and the old Mennonite are just exactly what they are. They're the old Amish and the old Mennonite. They practice exactly like they did before they came here from Germany. They speak the same language, which is a cross between High German and what they call Pennsylvania Dutch, which is more of a slangish type of stuff. But paranormal-wise, even the Bigfoot reports, we weren't involved in any of that, but there's a Bigfoot report logged by 2 Amish boys. Now, the gentleman that investigated it kind of put it up as a hoax, but I'm surrounded by them here now. Where I'm moving to, I'm not anywhere near that. I'm moving to another county, but it are very nice people, very good people. There are farm markets we go to and stuff like that. And then there's some around here that I wouldn't give 2 spits or a holler for, and they let you know right out that they don't really care for the English, which we would be. So, again, it's one of those things where you can learn a lot by reading about it. You can read a lot or understand a lot about it by talking to them, and some of them will discuss it, but they're not usually the ones that discuss it aren't the ones that are involved in it either. And then there's other groups that you bring up powwow, man, they walk away. In some cases, they'll jump on a horse and ride away. They just don't even want to talk about it. It's just what it is. And it's not just in Lancaster County. I mean, you have big groups in Ohio that practice it. There's groups all over the United States. There's Amish groups in Mexico that practice powwow. And I think when I read the book on it, it started out as a healing art. You would get somebody that practiced powwow to come cure a cold or help you, with trying to figure out how you're going to put your next crop in, stuff like that. But then there's, most of the time, it's stuff that's not really nice. And another thing is they don't practice it. Powwows aren't practiced against other Amish. Whether you're old Amish or new Amish, it doesn't matter. They don't mess with you. It's the English. So if you're an English guy or, want to buy a piece of property near them and they don't want you there, then nasty things happen.
Coming out of Amish country, besides the powwows, do they talk about haunting?
Parked at a restaurant not too far from where I live, and there was an Amishman and his daughter, and they saw the emblem on the side of the door. And when I came out, he was standing there waiting for me, and he just said, are there such a thing? Are there things up there that we don't know what they are? It's just normal questions, but, he was very nice about it. Other than that, they really keep to themselves. I mean, unless you do business with them. I mean, if, like, say, you're a building contractor, but you only put in foundations, and an Amish group or their sons may have a home building group, but they don't do foundations. They'll work with you, no problem. They'll never cheat you. You'll have more problem with Mennonite groups than you will with Amish as far as that goes. I mean, they're very upfront businessmen. They are amazing carpenters. I don't want to say 50-50 because I'm going to say that probably 90% of them are really good people, and they mind their own business. They do their own thing, and they grow amazing food, and they're great cooks. So, but there's some you just got to watch out for. It is what it is, it's a sect. They're very close knit. Deal strictly in cash. Very little banking is done that way. If they know, and they don't go, that doesn't go through a bank. They take that to the church, and the church loans them the money, and it's no interest. So, and they get a long way to pay for it. And usually when like a son or a daughter gets married, they may get a farm on the farm. They'll build them a house and everything. So they're very family oriented. They have interest in UFOs, yes. They have interest in paranormal things, yes. They have interest in Bigfoot, yes. But it's kind of a dulled down interest. Is that for real? I mean, do people really look for these things? And that's pretty much what it boils down to.
Dennis is asking, in regards to this, how many hex symbols are still used in that area?
Everywhere. They're everywhere. Now, you will see them on Old Amish. Old Amish will never drive a car. Old Amish will never have a use that may be down the road a mile away or 2 miles from a farm, between a whole bunch of farms that pay for that phone, or to order feed or something like that. It's always has nothing to do with them calling one. When you go to New Amish, they will get special dispensation from the church to use to drive a truck for their business, to use that for the business only. So they can't take it to church or anything like that. They got to use a buggy. New Mennonite, they all use cars. They have no qualms about that. They use mechanized engine-run machinery out in a buggy. If they're in a buggy, it's old order. Same with the Amish, old order. And some New Amish kind of switch, they kind of play both sides of the fence, although they may use some, diesel or gasoline-powered equipment on their farm, generator or something like that to run equipment, especially if they're building something, or they have a shop where they're building furniture and they need electric. They are using a horse and buggy, and it's just the way they are. I mean, they shirk off all modern convenience. They don't have radios. They do read newspapers, but that's about as much contact they get with the news or the world. Most of them are dyed-in-the-wool Republicans, and that's the way they vote, and they do vote. The state not long ago made them change the lighting on buggies, that they were more accessible. They were more LED instead of the old. At one time, they were coal oil lamps, but now they're LED flashers, and they have to have a slow-moving vehicle sign on the back. And they had to put. They still use spoked wheels, of course, on the buggies, but now instead of having a steel wheel, it's a steel wheel, but there's rubber on it now. So because they were just tearing up the roads. But
so they went they went with those new fancy mags on the carriages. Huh?
Yeah, we call them Amish Freightliners.
Nice. Do they have any hydraulics where they're pumping up and down to the music, or what?
No. Now, before they, the Amish kids, every year there's a time period. It's called Spring-esh, I believe it's called, in the old order, and Rumspringa in the new order, where they can do anything they want. They can go out and buy blue jeans and whatever, leather jackets. They can put radios in their buggies. I've seen some buggies that had LED lighting all around them, so they're either going to stay in the church and totally shunned. They will never see family again or friends that are Amish. If they leave the sect, if they leave the church, they're on their own. If they stay in the church, they marry into the church. And on the hottest days, you see all of them out there. I mean, little kids. It's interesting. I mean, they have a lot of history. And like I said, the ones around here, I mean, they're all really nice people. And I mean, you could have an Amishman show up at your door, or an Amish wife that you may know the family that they just want to share with you for no particular reason. That's happened quite a few times. So their wedding points when they get married is usually October. Early and mid-October is when they marry. The Mennonites, I think, are in August and September.
My friend, we're going to step out for our second break of the night here on Spaced Out Radio. Butch Witkowski giving us the Amish lesson. I'm just teasing right now, Butch. As Butch comes in the final Monday of every month with a show we call around here Strange Days. Butch's website, uf4cop.com. That's uf4cop.com if you want to go right after this. Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned? Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
And I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover, from government conspiracies to helping clean up at radio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live, Strange Phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouvers will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic of thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracy. Look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only.
Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever
journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sunday.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Leela Hutchison is going to join us. We're going to talk about gems, crystals, the power of healing through natural phenomena. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone that's listening in on the SOR Radio Network and especially on the Fringe.fm. We are also live on Periscope.tv every Monday through Friday night. And you can check out our archives. Go to youtube.com/spacedoutradio. I'd appreciate that if you hit the subscribe button to our channel. That would be great. Our archives are free, so just hit that subscribe. It's a nice fair trade. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers. Be sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, we got a plethora of features online or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. For the final time tonight, we introduce Butch Witkowski from UFO Cop. Butch comes in the final Monday of every month to talk about everything weird and odd in the feature that we call Strange Days around here. Butch, welcome back.
Yes, sir. I got a question for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Deep question. You know, I really do believe that there has to be something to this. I think some of these creatures existed. I still think there are some, like Bigfoot, that have some sort of supernatural phenomena that is out there that we just have not investigated as of yet. And that really has me concerned, because I do believe that there is more to... I do believe that.
Yes. I think the monster before the myth.
Me too.
There are so many... There's just this plethora of reports. Now, granted, other people they look for... I think once researchers realize that there's something out there, there has to... This is a movie in the waiting to be made. That, you've been, snowballing, through all your investigations, coming up with whatever you thought was the explanation du jour. So you have so many good researchers out there. It's at the point where, and researchers, and there are groups, and the younger ones coming in are smart. They really are. They ask the right questions. They know how to use the equipment. And, they're applying different things. All in all, the amount of folks out there, I believe them until I'm proven wrong, but I'm not talking about the hoaxers. I mean, they're pretty easy to pick off. But, some of the podcasts that are out there are very good. Very enlightening. And then just on the other hand, there's some out there that are totally worthless. But I forgot it. The hex signs with the Amish, it depends what sect you belong to. A hex sign could be to ward off evil. A hex sign could also be there to bring good luck. And you'll never know which one because they're not going to tell you. And there's no way of looking at it. I mean, they're all different. Some the ones that have 6-sided stars on are bad luck, warding off bad luck. So, it's just, I just wanted to throw that in there with the Amish stuff. But paranormal-wise, are they believers? Yeah, evidently with the powwows they are. So, individuals in the group.
I did have a question from Aaron in Periscope. However, our Periscope feed froze up. I had to refresh and restart everything, so I did lose the question. Aaron, I'm going to been looking into recently a couple of incidents of missing people that have really strange details to them. Yeah.
Yes, I have. A couple of them are very bizarre. Some happened during the war, which they seem to be the strangest ones. And others are more recent. When I say more recent, probably in the 70s, 80s era. But people that just vanished. I mean, not taken or anything else. They just vanished. So the one that intrigued me the most was actually a pilot and observer in a small plane who were keeping an eye on some Arab uprisings during the 40s, beginning of the war. Plane, and they found the plane a few days later, and the plane was just like walked away from the plane a matter of 50 feet, and that was the end of the footprints. They were never seen again. The plane was absolutely flyable. The plane had plenty of fuel. It started right up, and they flew it out of there, and those two pilots were never seen again. Just gone. A fishing boat in, I believe it's 48 or 49, the fishing boat with four gentlemen. One guy was the owner of the boat, the other three were his buddies, and they went out fishing in the bay in Florida. And the family was on the shore having a little picnic and watched them, and they just disappeared. They just vanished. They were gone. There was no other ships in the area or anything that hit them or anything like that. They didn't see any splashing. They didn't see any disturbance. I mean, these guys are waving at them, and they're just going, and that was it. They just vanished. And when you look at those stories or the reports of people vanishing like that, it is absolutely amazing. Another one that sticks real good in my head is a group of young people. Bar closed at 1 o'clock. Everybody's out on the front porch. I don't remember the gentleman's name. We'll just say Bill. So Bill says, I'll go get the car. And they watch Bill walk toward the parking lot, which is a matter of like 30, 40 feet away. And Bill didn't come back. So they thought, well, maybe he passed out or something, but he wasn't drunk. And they walked over, and the keys were laying on the ground, and Bill was nowhere to be seen and was never seen again. So people vanishing, those reports are many, many, many. A village in Tanzania. All the men went off to work in the morning, do what they do. They came back at later in the afternoon. All the meals were being cooked. Stuff was on the table. Not a man, woman, or child in that village has ever been seen again other than the guys that came back. They're just gone. Everybody gone. No signs of struggle, no blood, nobody busted in and ripped the place up. I mean, everything was just, and just gone. Just gone. Those intrigue me because, our space brethren needed company. Who knows? But they're just gone. They just disappeared like they never existed.
Do you think that this is some sort of alien type taking? May try and figure out something strange happening.
Well, the evidence is when these people disappear, like take the two pilots, they were in radio contact with the tower, and then they said nothing about having a problem with the plane, and that was the last they heard of them. Door to the ground, and then so far into the desert, and the plane was perfect. I mean, they started up, flew it, had everything, had the oil it needed, had the gas, had everything, and off it went. But never seen again. The guys in the boat were on shore looking at the boat as they pulled away, and they weren't but less than a quarter mile away into the bay when the boat just vanished, and they vanished. Or a jacket, a life jacket, they found nothing. So these four guys just vanished. They vaporized. They were gone. We've had a couple deaths last year, I believe, here in Pennsylvania, where guys that were in their late 70s, early 80s, they got lost, and, hypothermia got them. The cases that are really weird is when you got, this one was in looking for deer during deer season, and they found their little thermos bottles and their little lunch buckets, sitting on a tree stump. The rifles were leaning up against, and they were young. I believe the one guy was 26, and I think the other one was 29. And they were avid hunters. They did this all the time. But you have these strange disappearances where they make no sense. I mean, they weren't kidnapped. There wasn't an accident. It's just crazy. They're here, and then they're gone. There's I can't remember the name of the guy, but there's a famous case out in the Illinois area where a contractor, a very well-known, well-loved, big family contractor, to the end of the lane, which is a half a mile away, to get the mail. And running, but it can't go any further because it's kind of pushing against the hill. Wheels are just sitting there spinning. So he thought, well, it was an accident, so he started looking around. He gets back, gets other people, they search. There's a reward for this guy that's been out now for 22 years, I believe it is, for lots of money, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. There was no sign of a struggle, no accident, just like he just turned into the hill and stopped. And that was it. He was gone, just vanished. Nobody came up the lane there are many cases like that. A lot of cases in Pennsylvania back in, and I don't mean, really young children. I'm talking about kids that were like 6, 7 years old playing in the yard where the mother's in the kitchen. She's at her mother's house. The grandmother or her mother is sitting on the front porch, and the 7-year-old girl is being chased by her 5-year-old brother around the house, just a game. And she's watching him run by, and the little boy chasing the little girl, and she's a little faster than he is, so he's bringing up the rear. And the little girl comes by, but no boy. So the grandmother yells for the mother. She comes out, and she starts yelling for the boy, running around the house. She don't see the boy. The boy's not there. He's never been found. And in that whole area of the county, of course, the first guy they looked at was a child predator, and it is no way, because this guy was at work, and everybody vouched for him that he was at work that whole time. To go up to the house, you drove up a one-lane road that you had to turn around at the end to go back. The neighbor was out cutting the grass. He didn't see anybody around, which animals don't even go through because they'd never get through it. So nobody came through there. They found no, like shoes or anything regarding the child, was grabbed. Nothing. Never found him. He's still missing. That's still an open case. In Pennsylvania, his 411 East book, which is basically this end of the country, there's a lot of cases in Pennsylvania like that. But when you get the rest of the books, like the West, and there is tons of cases. He puts out a map. This is the second edition map, where it pinpoints the missing persons all over the country. Why, it's phenomenal. A little playground. They're going next door to visit a neighbor. That was another one that was just totally weird. Lady baked a cake and was taking the cake next to her neighbor. The cake was laying on the ground. The woman's never been seen again. She's gone. Just gone.
In your estimation, do you think these people are walking into maybe portals or different dimensions? What do you think it could be?
It could be. It could be, because just how it happens. The people that were watching watching Bill run to get the car, they watched him. I mean, they had their eyes on him. It wasn't like he went out in the dark by himself. I mean, these people were just like 20-some feet away from him. They watched him walk toward the car. But the car didn't start. They didn't see any headlights on. And they started yelling, Bill, hey, well, what are you doing? This and the other. And Bill didn't answer. So he wasn't grabbed or snatched by anybody. So are they walking into
I believe that it's probably some sort of portal-like atmospheric condition that's happening, where they just walk into a different dimension, almost like their own personal Mandela effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thousands and thousands of cases that go way back where, I mean, they're documented. Had families. They had fathers, brothers, sisters, mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers, and they just, from her steps where she brought the cake out of her house to the steps that lead up to the lady's house next door was 10 feet.
Yeah,
and the lady,
and that's more than just somebody, Butch, pulling a gun on you and saying, "You're coming with me." There's no screaming. There's no panic. There's no nothing.
And what's funny about that case is, well, it's not funny, but where the lady saw her come out of the house, and she told that to the police. She said, I saw her come out of the house. She was holding the cake. And she said, I turned around to, take my apron off and go out front to greet her. And when I went out front, the cake was there, but she was gone.
And they always have the same sort of pattern. Usually if it's walking out of their house, the wallets aren't missing, the keys aren't missing, or vehicles are running, and it's just strange circumstances.
Because it's like, they're going about their business and somebody pulls the plug and all of a sudden they're just not there anymore. It's in 1913, I think it was. I'm really bad with dates. I think it was 1913, where a detachment of French soldiers, 25 in all, were to go pick up the meal for the day for the boys in the trenches. So they get their little horse-drawn cart and all their stuff that they need to fill up with meals, and they get down. They go down. They're within 3 miles of their cook point, where the cooks are making this stuff. They show, and they never got back. They weren't killed. They weren't attacked because they were on the right side of the line. The horse was standing in the middle of the road with the cart, with the food, and these guys were gone. Just gone. So how do you explain that?
I don't. I really...
when you look at those bizarre cases, and the bizarre cases could be anything. They could be paranormal. They can be cryptozoology. They could be UFOs. They could be anything. But when you find something where it just ends and there's no going further, like the cake or the little boy running around chasing his sister around the house. I mean, it's like time stopped. They were taken, gone, vanished, walked into a portal, fell in a hole, whatever. They're just not there. And they're never seen again, ever. I mean, I could see if a little boy or a little girl ran off into the woods and, they got lost and, they succumbed to nature. That's one thing. But these are people that doing normal things, going to work, leaving the bar to go get the car or taking the cake next door to a neighbor, and they're gone. They're just gone. And there's, they're all investigated by police and military and everything else, and they have no answers. Look at the Lost Squadron, didn't find anything. And then the rescue plane that sent out to look for them, that disappeared. That's never been found either. And, watching, planes on a radar scope, and then they just disappear. They don't crash. There's no sound or, anybody calling for help or mayday or anything like that. They're just gone. They disappear. Happenstance you could walk into unknowingly? I guess it could be. I don't know. I'm not that smart. But you can't put anything aside because there's being involved in it. Again, it takes a lot of proof. Because when these people disappear, one other one was a gentleman in Scotland, very well known, very well heeled, had a lot of money, took care of a lot of people, was very close to the government, was very close to the local government, was a banker, stock trader by trade, owned a lot of property, walked out of the bank, lit up a cigar, was talking to a friend of his. Friend of his turned around to say hello to somebody that he saw across the street, and that's all he did. He turned around and said, "Hi, Joe," or whatever. It turned around, his buddy was gone, the cigar was laying.
That stuff I just don't understand.
The banking, all his money, his properties were never touched by anybody, so it was no like a kidnapping or anything like that. A matter of fact, it was probably one of the longest declarations of death in the history of that country, where they waited 15 years before they declared him dead.
Well, I mean, even if you look up here in Canada, up in the territories, where an entire village disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Where did they go? They didn't up and move.
No. No, it's important like that, and they go like, oh, well, you know, that kind of stuff happens. Give me a break. That stuff don't just happen. There's no rhyme or reason why it happens, but it happens. That's important. It happens. And it happens while people are watching. I mean, how do you lose 25 soldiers? There was no walking off into the field. They didn't all go AWOL. People is a really old story. It's, you know, and another thing that is kind of goofy is, how would you investigate a portal? I mean, where would you look? You know? How would you even prove that there's an alternative universe or parallel universe? I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start. I don't think anybody else would either. Although that could be an answer, but I don't know. I just don't know.
Eerie, man. That's my biggest fear. Biggest fear with my children is something like that would happen. Something like that would happen.
You know, and when I looked at Dave's map, I thought, well, a lot of this stuff will be remote, you know, remote areas of the country. No, these happened in downtown cities, rural communities. It didn't matter. Businesses, buildings. And then there's people that swear and declare they saw something. They do the whole 9 yards, where they say, you know, I'm watching so-and-so walk down the hallway and he just vanished. He was just gone. And I was watching him the whole time. And I'll tell you who or stuff where, you know, there's a long hallway or maybe a long walkway to the parking lot. And, you know, they'll, you know, say goodnight to Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones gets to the parking lot, and the guy's watching him on camera or in person standing out front, and the guy just, poof, gone. That's spooky stuff. That's scary. That's just scary stuff.
Has this ever had any of these disappearances been caught on video?
I'm going to say yes, and let me think about this just a second. That was in, I believe, Taos, New Mexico. And the cameras all over the place, you know, because of theft. And the guy was looking at the car, and the salesman was walking toward him, and the salesman thought he fell over. He just, you know, he wasn't there. And the salesman walked over to the car. Guy wasn't there. Even the keys for the car were missing because he had the keys. And when the police came, they looked at the camera, they looked at the tape, and it just like the guy became translucent, and he was gone. That was it. Now, that was in California, Northern California, a church. It was a Catholic church where two nuns were visiting, and the camera catches them walking into the church, and that's it. They're gone. I mean, they just gone. The guy thought there was something wrong with the camera. So it's just weird.
Let's move on to another topic here, because I got a couple questions that have built up. And this one coming from Aaron on Periscope. He's asking, Butch, what do you know found throughout the building of Europe?
Been documented for a long, long time.
What are they?
Long.
What are they for those of us who don't know?
They are entities on both sides of the fence. And when I say that, it's just like, you know, when gargoyles were put on buildings. And the second thing they were put up there was to ward off demons. Or they were demons, and they were meant to keep people away. Okay? The same thing. Some say their powers were very nonsense that they never even existed. But when you look into those cases, they go back to the 14th century. And many, they talk about Salem burned witches. Well, Salem didn't burn any witches like they did back in the 14th century, where they had tens of thousands of people burned at the stake. Just the mere word of somebody saying that you were a witch. That was it. You will tell you anything you want to hear, thinking they'll get out of it, but it doesn't happen that way. But there are other cases like that in witchcraft. Witchcraft goes back to probably the dawn of man. I don't know. It's, you read a case and you think like, boy, that's weird. And then you find one and go like, wow, that's really weird. But it wouldn't think they'd be. They are.
Let's move on here to another question. Eric is asking, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. We never know if it's him or his beard asking the question. He's saying, Butch, do you think Bigfoot is a carnivore or an omnivore?
I think they're both, because and I'm not a Bigfoot expert by any means. I mean, I learn a lot from other investigators, but deer that are found are missing liver or a hind quarter. And then orchards are ransacked. So I think Bigfoot can be anything he wants to be. I mean, great report from a gentleman who was actually here in Pennsylvania from Oklahoma investigating a case of some strange lights in the sky. Walked down to the stream in the morning, had his gun strapped on his hip, went down to wash up a little bit, and as he crosses a little hill to go down into the creek, he sees what he thought was a guy that was fishing, until the guy stood up, and then he was 20 foot away from a Bigfoot. The guy is an ex-police officer, retired, long-time police officer. He had a friend of his in the FBI make up the picture, the drawing of it, and he said the only reason he didn't shoot is because it looked more human than it looked like anything else. And it looked at him, it was holding a fish, and he looked at it, and it just walked off down the other side and into the woods. So they'll eat I'm pretty sure they'll eat whatever they can get. And another thing we found where 91% of all Bigfoot sightings are within range of a quarter mile or less of some type of water, whether it's a creek, a stream, a river, a lake, water. So if they got to have water and they got to have food, kind of tells you what they are. They're not invisible.
As I know up here, especially in the lower mainland during salmon season, river, they'll leave them out as gifts along with berries. And the lower mainland's very known for all of them.
Well, and that same thing goes in when you get to the Southwest, where indigenous leave out antelope, hind quarter of an antelope as gifts, because fruits and vegetables, say the desert in Arizona, so or the mountainous areas of Arizona, so they leave out deer, they leave out antelope, they leave out vegetables, and it's gifting. That's what they're doing. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just like saying, well, where does he live? Does he have to have a shelter? Well, common sense would say if there are young ones and old ones that are too young to hunt or too old to hunt, meals, that they would be in some type of shelter. There are guys that are dyed in the wool and say, they live underground. Well, they could live in caves. I mean, there's lots of caves here in PA. Lots of old buildings that are abandoned up in the woods. Nobody's been around since the turn of the century. So could they be there? Sure. But I don't know of any researcher that ever goes to those places. I mean, they'll have a research area out in the woods, and that's what they stick with. But, maybe within a mile, bedding, in a basement of an old building or something like that. A lot of scat. I don't know. As easy as you can explain a Bigfoot, evidence, but the stories abound by the thousands and thousands all over the country. Here, British Columbia, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Northern California, Washington, Texas. I mean, they're everywhere. So, I just don't know. I really, and that's as honest as I can get. I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of the stories are so compelling, and then some of them are so outrageous. It even gets hard to draw a line after a while. But it's an amazing subject, that it is, for sure.
Let's move on to another question here from Dawn. She is asking, Butch, have you ever investigated a portal? And if not, how would you go about it?
These portals make no rhyme or reason. It's not like they open up at a certain time, a certain place, all the time. I mean, you can have a group or a person go missing in a certain town at a certain time, and nothing ever happens there again. And maybe 100 miles down the road, something happened earlier or later on the same day. So are these portals... It's like trying to figure out what the Hardin accelerator is trying to do. It's trying to find the beginning of mankind, Earth, and everything else. It's just so difficult. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to begin. I mean, I'd have to give that a whole lot of thought, and I still probably wouldn't know how to begin. And I don't know anybody that does. I mean, people talk a lot about portals, and with the cases that are out there, the vanishing folks, it's possible. But how do you even figure it out? I mean, how would you start? Where would you go? It's almost like you would have to know that somebody was going to vanish and watch them. But that's not going to happen. And it's just really weird. Portals, parallel universes, are they possible? Yeah, anything is possible. And if you don't have an open mind, you shouldn't be doing this stuff to begin with. But you just...
Question follow-up from Aaron from his earlier question regarding the witch marks in Europe. And he was asking, were you ever able to figure out what the marks were used for and how they originated?
No, I don't think anybody does. There's a book, the Malleus Maleficarum, which basically was used during the Inquisition. And it basically told the Catholic bishops and the cardinals that were out running the Inquisition how to torture people to get the information. In 2 places in that book, they have it. That's why, we're passing sentence on them to be burned at the stake or hung or drowned or whatever. And it's very vague. I mean, it's very vague. But if you get the Malleus Maleficarum, it's in there. It mentions I think it mentions witch marks twice. The one I have is very old. It's not the new paperback thing. I got it from another researcher that just retired and gave it up. The Malleus Maleficarum that I have is from the late 1890s, and I haven't seen the new one, the new copy that's out there, the red and white and fancy job, which has a lot less information, and mine is 390 pages, I think, and I think the new one's only like 165, so a lot of stuff was left out. Now, witchcraft is a whole other thing. Now, that's something that just bugs me to death, witchcraft, because it's very hard to understand. Back in those days, why they would do that to people, just to get them to convert, or how anyone can, cast spells on children or old folks. It's just bizarre. And there are so many stories like that throughout history involved, the incantations that are involved, the methods used. It's just, ISIS are bad dudes, but these folks back then were thinking just like them. Your life was totally worthless to them. But I don't know. It's just witchcraft. And although I've been at conferences where I've heard people talk about it, I've talked with people about it. I've had people come up to me at conferences and mention witchcraft and stuff like that. And although they're all different in their presentation, they all seem to have that one thing in common, which is a really, really deep belief in the dark side, and that the dark side can cure all or kill all. And that to me is just bizarre. It's crazy. It scares me.
All right, let's get to another question. This in regards to the missing people. This comes from Trip. He is asking, do you know of anyone who has taken a map of the disappearances and a ley line map to see if they line up?
Yeah. We do ley lines on also in the disappearances ley line. In the early disappearances, I'm just going to state Pennsylvania. In the early disappearances of Pennsylvania, ley lines were not used. In the disappearances that go from, I think, 5 cases, ley lines are right on the money. And, they weren't even close. But ley lines are good for everything. I mean, you can use them in ufology. A gentleman out in California did ley lines for all the UFO reports on the 32nd parallel. And the 32nd parallel showed that it had the most reports of any place in the United States. So ley lines are important, just like weather. Weather's important, All the little things that you don't think about are eyewitness testimony, photographs, video, all that stuff. But ley lines work. I mean, if you have a series of reports in a certain area, I would behoove any investigator to use ley lines and to see, if there's a connection and how far it goes. It does go back in history. I mean, when you start looking at historical reports, do they match up with the ley lines that you just did this afternoon on cases that you might have had in the last year or so? Ley lines tell a lot, but I really don't know many people that use them. And I see where Eric Cooper just put in there, well, as a witch, I don't practice dark arts. Eric, most people don't. Most witches do not practice dark arts. It's the ones that do that scare me.
Butch, we only got about 5.5 minutes left with you tonight. Another fast-paced show, my friend. Another very fast-paced show. I'm wondering, in regards to your research, as we go from springtime to summer, where things really start to heat up, more people are going outside, creatures are being seen.
Caution hunter, a long-time woodsman, they know what to do. But one of the things I would say, make sure you got your cell phone. Make sure people know where you're going, where you're going to be, approximate time you're going to be there. Make yourself aware of the type of animals that are in the area you're going. I'm not telling everybody to, load up and get their shotgun and everything else, but, have a plan. There's just, be aware of what you're looking for. I mean, I don't know how many people get bit by snakes because they pick them up. They think it's a garter snake. It turns out to be a rattler or a copperhead or something like that. But, if you've never been out in the woods in the summertime, you really need to take a crash course. I mean, talk to somebody that you might know that does it a lot. Those things where Some people, when they go in the woods, are like, ignorance is bliss. You know what I'm saying? They don't have a clue. They just think they're gonna, or they go out in the woods on a nice hot day and they don't take water, or lightning starts to go, so they climb under a tree so they don't get wet. I mean, there's so many things that people do that are just senseless. I mean, if you're going to do something, look, if you're going to go buy a car, you're all over that car. You're under it, over it, in and out of it. I mean, you're looking at every little crumb, the ashes in the ashtray, wear on the steering wheel, and then you're busting the salesman's butt over stupid stuff. But these are the same people that'll go out in the woods. They don't have food. They don't have water. They don't have communication. They don't have a pocket knife. They don't have anything. I mean, you may need some first aid. You may need, you're going to need water. You may need a knife. You may need matches. There's so many things you may need that you'll probably never use. But if it comes time when you do need to use it and you don't have it, you're in big trouble. And, some of these hikers that get lost, especially out in California, they're long-time hikers. I mean, they know what they're doing, they know where they're going, and they get lost. That one girl, they just found her. She was out for 4 days, and she walked that trail all the time. And she got off the trail, and she got confused, and she started walking in the wrong direction. She was missing 4 days before they found her. I mean, so here's a young lady who, got a busted ankle out of it, and for 4 days, so, things can take really nasty turns really quick out in the woods. Look, we're all big guys with our group. I mean, there's nobody here. It's like little puny guys. I mean, we're all big men. And, we double check everything, and nobody goes out by themselves ever under any circumstance. So if there's something, we're going to go look into a cave. We have a guy outside. We have a guy in the middle, and we have two guys going in there, and they're tied fast. So anything happens, that rope, I'm just going to step on it, and you're coming out real quick. You may be bruised a little bit, but that's better than, dying in the cave. That's another thing, that people go caving. They walk into a cave, they have no idea that it might be an old mine with gas. Gas coming up through the rocks, and they're dead. The young lady that was attacked by the bear, first time in the woods, and she gets attacked by a bear. She gets 2 skull fractures, multiple lacerations on her back. She got away from it, only because something distracted it, and she gets in her truck, and she drove 2.5 miles to get help, and in the shape she was in. So there was a person that was very at ease in the woods. She was a park ranger. So you can be really good and get really hurt really quick. But I just tell people all the time, just be careful, plan it, know what's out there, know what you could run into, don't take anything for granted, and always make sure people know where you're at and where you're going to be or where you're supposed to meet them, that if you don't show up, they can start looking for you right away. And some people adhere to that, but animals will have a good time. And then the unexpected happens.
Mr. Witkowski, it's that time of the night where we got to start shutting things down here, my friend.
Alrighty.
Another 3 hours gone like June 25th. And I look forward to it, my friend.
Me too. It's always fun. It is. It's not that run-of-the-mill show, where we just talk on one subject. We're all over the place.
We are. It's a mixed bag of nuts, that's for sure. It's a mixed bag. Do me a favor, Butch, before you go. Tell everybody where they can find your information.
They can find it on Facebook under UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania, under U4COP, UFORCOP. Website is UFORCOP.com. Blog site is also there. Contact points are also there. And they can hear me on The Existence of Strange Things along with my co-host Sean Forker. That's every Friday night from 11 to 1 Eastern, and on The Fringe FM on a Saturday night from 9 to 12.
Eastern time.
All Eastern time, yes.
You're one of those Eastern time guys. Butch, thanks so much. You hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Tomorrow night on the program, Leela Hutchinson joins us. We are going to be talking gems, crystals, the power of healing. Is it possible? We'll find out 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, tomorrow night at spacedoutradio.com. Want to say a big thank you to everyone listening at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. A special thank you to everybody at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, in the Periscope chat room, the Veterans Club and the SOR Space Travelers, and everyone on Spreaker. Thanks for an amazing night. Thanks for having fun with us. Thanks for sharing the show, because together, my friends, we own the night. Talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one.